Speaking of agencies and their controversial role, senior Supreme Court lawyer Sidharth Luthra has leveled a sensational charge at the government, at agencies actually. Yesterday, he tweeted something that many have suspected for a long time. Let me quote what Sidharth Luthra has put out on Twitter. He says, "One is hearing whispers that lawyers appearing in sensitive cases are being liberally subjected to phone taps. If so, someone needs to ask how such a blatant breach of privacy, legal privilege, and curtailment of access to justice can be permitted." Now, this claim is in line with the allegation against central agencies in recent times, that the likes of the CBI and ED have become political arms of the government. But Sidharth Luthra says it's not just the central government. In reply to a comment on the same tweet, he wrote, "Both central and state agencies are cut from the same cloth." Sidharth Luthra is joining me on the show now. Mr. Luthra, thank you very much for your time. You've put out a tweet. I've just read it out for our viewers. I'm afraid, what we are putting out right now is not really visible because the text is very small. So I'm just going to quote what you've written. You say lawyers appearing in sensitive cases are being liberally subjected to phone tapping. May I ask you, who is tapping these phones?
So I'll tell you what, this is not a new phenomena. It's been happening for the last, at least I know, for the last 2 decades odd. And whether it be state agencies or central agencies, it's a kind of practice to access lawyers' phones. And the concern that I have is that we as lawyers speak to various clients. We have conversations which by law are privileged. The Supreme Court has recognized 9 judges the right to privacy. I may be having a quarrel with somebody, a disagreement with my friend or with a family member. Why should somebody be listening to it? And these are matters of some concern. So this is something which is happening. And of late, I think it's become a little more rampant and it's across the board. The other thing is, Section 5.2 of the Telegraph Act says, you can tap if there is an interest of sovereignty, integrity of India, security of the state, friendly relations with foreign states, public order, or incitement to an offense. For heaven's sake, as a professional, if I'm advising a client or a client is seeking consultation, is that anybody's business? And that's a question that needs to be asked because it also compromises the right to access of justice. And this is a practice which I think is, I've lately, of recent, got information specifically about certain cases, and I don't want to necessarily disclose them. But the point is, it's becoming rampant. For years, I've had a policy. If you want to discuss something, I tell a client, come and visit me. Anything sensitive, come and visit me. It has to be face to face. I'm very wary of the kind of access to technology that is being done these days.
Okay, so essentially what you're telling me is that lawyers, senior lawyers who are handling sensitive cases, politically sensitive cases, their phones have been tapped for a long while now, almost 2 decades. But in recent times, you're saying it has become rampant. Can I ask you if you suspect that your phone is being tapped as well?
Well, I think it's for any lawyer practicing on the criminal side and who does some amount of interesting work, it's a SOP which we assume that it's under surveillance. It's nothing. I always tell my juniors, assume that your phone is under surveillance and then have a conversation with the client.
Okay, then the obvious question to ask is, where is the proof? And why have the affected lawyers not put this out in the public domain or taken the government and agencies to court, citing violation of fundamental rights?
The problem is you don't really get to know half the time. And then sometimes you do get to know. And when you do get to know, most people want to be wary because if you open this up, there are a lot of conversations you have with a lot of people, a lot of clients and others. And it's something which has not been taken. But I think the more fundamental thing is, should this be allowed to be done? Should this at all be allowed to be done? Yesterday, I just read I got some clients send me a notice where an investigating agency in one of the state governments has issued a notice to a lawyer asking him to explain why he believes the agency's actions are bad. There are raids carried out on lawyers. There are investigations carried out against them. And it's happened. Raids have been carried out in lawyers because clients have entrusted them with documents, and you had agencies calling on the lawyers' offices, on solicitors' offices, and going for raids. So I think it was time to call out an issue which is something which we don't really talk about, but it had been preying on my mind for a while, last couple of weeks at least, since I got some more specific information, and therefore I thought it's time to let the cat out of the bag, so to speak.
So you're calling it out, but you're not doing anything about it, is it?
Listen, I'll tell you what. There will be two kinds of access to your phones. One is legitimate, one is illegitimate. If it's legitimate, you get to know. What about the other one?
You know, in the times we live in, it's interesting that everyone right now is accusing each other of phone tapping. The BJP is accusing the Aam Aadmi Party. The Shiv Sena and Rahul Gandhi are accusing the BJP. Now you're saying that senior lawyers who are dealing with politically sensitive cases, their phones are being tapped by agencies. These are interesting times that we live in.
I'm not bothered about them. I'm only concerned as a lawyer. We have privacy. We have responsibilities to clients. What you do in your rivalries is unfortunate, but it's your problem. But I believe it affects access to justice. And for me, that's a very fundamental issue. Access to justice, privacy, and legal privilege.
You know, sir, the last time surveillance hit the headlines, as it were, was when the Pegasus matter came up. Now, the matter went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said that, yes, we have found malware in 5 phones that were submitted, but our technical committee has not been able to establish whether it was Pegasus or not. They also went on record to say the government didn't cooperate. And after that, they didn't say anything. So there is nothing in the public domain to tell us why the government did not cooperate or what the technical committee of the Supreme Court had found. Do you think that sort of vague judgment, which left much to imagination, possibly has emboldened agencies to tap phones further with impunity?
Pegasus is old hat. There's a lot more stuff which is available now. I'm informed. A lot more sophisticated technology. And, Pegasus came into public domain in 2018. I had a senior politician telling me, Siddharth, be careful of WhatsApp. There's Pegasus. So I said, what's Pegasus? And he pulled out a satellite phone and said, I only use these. There was this small phone, which is about a finger long. And he was using that because he had concerns. God knows what from, but he had concerns. So therefore, I think this is an issue. And the issue is today that the technology exists. It's easily available and has been existing for a long time. But I think I believe we really need to curtail the rampant misuse of technology and protect citizens and professionals' rights.
Okay, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you, Mr. Sidharth Luthra, for speaking to us. On that note, I'm slipping into a quick break on the show. All the happenings in Karnataka are coming up next. The BJP has a crisis at hand. That story playing up next. Do stay with us.